I've always considered myself cautious. Not paranoid, just aware. But sometimes, no amount of caution can protect you. It was about 10 years ago. I was 29 on a solo road trip from West Paterson, New Jersey, to Fort Worth, Texas. I hadn't seen my parents in a while, and after years of avoiding the trip, I finally decided to make it happen. A week-long journey alone, listening to music, drinking coffee at empty diners, crossing state lines, feeling like I was untethered from everything familiar. For the first half of the trip, everything was normal. I drove through Pennsylvania, Ohio, Arkansas, parts of Oklahoma. Miles of highway, fields, small towns that barely registered on a GPS. And then, somewhere near the border of Arkansas and Oklahoma, my car started acting up. It wasn't dramatic at first, just small hesitations in acceleration. A weird vibration. I tried ignoring it, telling myself it would pass. But within 20 minutes, the car refused to accelerate at all. I had no choice but to pull over. I popped the hood, pretending I knew something about engines. Truth is, I didn't. I stood there, wrench in hand, checking wires, glancing at hoses, hoping that maybe, just maybe, a miracle would happen. The area was isolated. Trees on either side, open fields stretching endlessly. The road behind me seemed empty for miles. No signs of life. No gas stations. No cell signal. Then I heard the unmistakable crunch of tires on gravel behind me. I looked up. A white pickup truck had pulled onto the shoulder. No front license plate that I could see. Nothing about the truck said friendly, but instinctively I knew someone was coming over to help. Or so I thought. The driver stepped out. Mid-30s, maybe older. Curly hair. Long, unkempt beard. Hands rough and calloused. He had the same build as me, roughly my height, slightly slouched like he had spent years leaning over machinery. I should have noticed the warning signs, the way he scanned me, the car, the road, almost like a predator sizing up prey, but I didn't. He didn't ask if I needed help. He assumed it. Already leaning over the engine, tinkering with wires and hoses, moving with ease that only comes from experience. I was nervous, but relieved. He seemed competent. After a few minutes, he stepped back. He muttered something about needing a compression tester, some tool I had never even heard of, and said his friend might be able to bring one over. I nodded, grateful. Then he froze, staring at something on his phone. Without warning, he pulled a gun from his jacket. One motion. Smooth, practice calm. The kind of calm that tells you this is routine. Sit down. Don't move, he said. No shaking. No hesitation. Just a statement of fact. I did exactly what he said. My backpack, wallet, phone, gone in moments. Every piece of identification, every card, everything he could use, he took. Even my phone password. And then he left. I sat on the shoulder, stunned. My car silent, my mind racing. He had literally robbed me, completely, in broad daylight, in the middle of nowhere. No threats beyond the gun. No chaos. Just precise, terrifying efficiency. I was furious. More than anything, I was furious at myself. How could I be so naive? But the rage had to wait. First, I needed my car to function. Luckily, another Good Samaritan passed by, helped me start the engine, gave me directions, and I made it to Fort Worth that night. I thought it was over. It wasn't. Weeks later, I started getting letters. Letters from banks I'd never heard of. Credit cards I hadn't applied for. Charges in towns I had never visited. Then, things escalated. My health insurance called. Someone had received emergency care under my name in Georgia. Not a billing error. Medical records. Emergency care. Unknown person. My name. My identity. I realized what I had been handed. A version of myself that someone else was now living. I filed reports. Police. FTC. Credit bureaus. Fraud alerts. Identity freeze. I did everything by the book. And yet, somehow, it wasn't enough. For months, my life was a blur of phone calls, paperwork, and paranoia. Every call, every letter, every unexpected charge could have been the same man I met on that side road. The man who knew what he was doing, who had prepared for this moment. I became obsessed. Every free second, I tracked him, scoured Craigslist, checked social media, monitored unusual transactions. I even set alerts for any time my name appeared online. And then, one night, I found something. A Craigslist post in Jackson, Tennessee. Power tools. Miscellaneous electronics. Everything listed perfectly matched the items charged to the credit cards he opened in my name. I debated going directly, driving 6 hours, confronting him. But I knew the risk. I didn't know if he was alone, if he had a gun, if he planned to vanish as suddenly as he had appeared before. So I did the only thing I could think of. I contacted the Jackson police, explained the situation, gave them the details. Days later, I set up a controlled meeting, coordinating with the police. The thief provided a time, a public place, and instructions. Bring cash. My stomach twisted the entire drive there. Every mile was a countdown. I imagined every scenario: confrontation, gunfire, escape. When we arrived, the man showed up in a red pickup truck alone. From a distance, he seemed nervous but unaware. The police were discreet, ready to intervene if needed. As soon as he noticed patrol cars nearby, he panicked, sped off, lost control, crashed into a ditch. It was almost cinematic. My name is Arthi, and this story takes place long before college parties and obsessively stalkerish friends. It happened in the spring of 1996, when I was 24 years old, freshly out of basic training and stationed as a communication specialist at an Air Force base in San Angelo, Texas. I had been in the military for a few years by then, mostly to get as far away from Mississippi as I could. Texas wasn't exactly home, but it had the right mix of wide-open skies and anonymity. My closest friends on base were Ceebus, a guy whose humor could cut through any tension, and Kay, a sharp, fearless woman who never backed down from anything, even me when I got stupid. It was a warm weekend in April, the kind of dry heat that lingers even after the sun sets. Ceebus had this idea, bright and reckless as always: a road trip to Austin, just for a day. Escape the base, stretch our legs, maybe drink a few beers, experience a small slice of civilian life. Kay offered to drive her SUV. I didn't mind. I wasn't attached to a wheel. We packed the vehicle with snacks, our gear, and the kind of nervous anticipation that comes before something you know will stick with you forever. About an hour into the drive, the road became desolate. Trees flanked us on either side. Fields stretched endlessly. There weren't even any streetlights, just the yellow dashed lines in front of us and the fading blue sky overhead. That's when Ceebus spoke up. "Did you see that car behind us?" It pulled off the shoulder right after we passed. I glanced in the rearview mirror. At first, I didn't see anything unusual. A dark Tahoe, or maybe a Suburban, was trailing us at a steady distance. "Maybe it's just another car," I said. Kay, ever curious, switched lanes deliberately. The Tahoe followed. She changed again. It mirrored her move. That's when my gut tightened. Something wasn't right. A minute later, the SUV behind us turned on its lights. Not flashing red and blue in a pattern I recognized. Not a siren. Just lights, urgent, commanding. Kay pulled over. I could see the man now, stepping out of the vehicle. Black tactical gear. No badge. No standard police markings. Nothing that indicated authority, except for some patch I couldn't read on his arm. Even his posture screamed, "I'm in control." He didn't approach the window immediately. He just stood there, analyzing the SUV like he was cataloging its contents, peering through the rear window, checking our bumper stickers, reading the license plate. Every glance felt methodical, predatory. Ceebus finally rolled his window down. "Is there a problem?" he asked. The man walked up to Kay's side. He didn't smile, didn't flinch, asked for her license and registration. Reluctantly, she handed it over. He walked back to his car and waited. We whispered among ourselves, uneasy but unsure what to do. Our instincts were screaming, something is very wrong here. But he was calm, calculated, the kind of calm that makes your own confidence tremble. Eventually, he returned with 2 other men, both similarly dressed. No uniforms, no visible identification. All 3 stood strategically around the rear of the SUV, silently corralling us. I remember my pulse spiking, my training kicking in, telling me to analyze the threat. All 3 were armed in ways I couldn't see. All 3 had that same rigid military posture, as if they'd done this before. Then, The first man leaned in closer to Kay's window and asked a single question. Is anyone in this car military? Kay didn't flinch. She nodded toward herself. Yes, me. And these two. The shift was subtle, but instantaneous. The man's body stiffened. He glanced at his companions, then back at her. There was tension in the air, something like recognition. The kind you get when someone realizes they just bit off more than they can chew. Without another word, he handed back the license, muttered something about driving slower, and retreated to his car. The Tahoe pulled off immediately after. Fast, controlled, gone. We sat in silence. None of us spoke for a while, processing what had just happened. By the time we reached Austin, the adrenaline had faded, replaced by that hollow, creeping fear that settled into your chest like a stone. Sebus, and I could hardly stop talking about it. The encounter was surreal, harrowing, and what stuck with me more than anything, we were lucky. Lucky that we were military. Lucky that Kay's bumper sticker betrayed our affiliation. Because had we been civilians, I try not to imagine it. Life on base resumed. The highway incident became a whispered topic, an unspoken reminder of our mortality. We all tried to ignore it, bury it under routines of training, reports, and weekends spent in anonymity. But danger has a way of following you. Not like a shadow you see, but like a heartbeat you feel. About a week later, while Sebus and I were watching the local news in the rec room, a story flashed across the screen that made my stomach turn. A man and a woman had been found dead in a ditch just outside San Angelo. Robbed, mutilated, dumped as if they were disposable. The vehicle abandoned nearby? A black Tahoe. My pulse froze. It hit me with a cold, shivering realization. That was the same vehicle. The same type of men. We want to find Kay immediately. All three of us, faces pale, voices low. We told the local police everything we remembered. Every detail. Even after giving statements, speaking with investigators, and reviewing timelines, part of me always wonders, were we being tested? Were those men actually criminals, or was something more organized? How much luck had protected us? I think about the precision of their observation, the Tahoe's timing, the men's uniforms, the way they just let us go. In some ways, that encounter haunted me more than any active combat assignment ever did. I also learned something else. Situational awareness matters more than courage. Training can save your life, but recognizing when to act and when to obey, when to move and when to still yourself, is what separates survival from tragedy. Even today, when I drive empty stretches of highway, I feel the memory, the heat haze, the endless lanes, the quiet hum of a desert night. Somewhere out there, someone could be watching, someone calculating. And I know how lucky I was, because that night, in that isolated stretch of Texas highway, I came face to face with death, and it walked away. But not without leaving me changed. There are moments in your life that don't feel real until years later. Moments that sit quietly in the back of your mind, waiting for the right night, the right silence to resurface. The scariest part isn't what happened. It's what almost happened. It's realizing that if you had taken one more step, opened one door, or ignored one instinct, you wouldn't be here to tell the story at all. This is one of those moments. And it happened during what was supposed to be the biggest party weekend of my life. My name is Arthi, and this happened during my senior year at a public university in California, part of the UC system. If you're familiar with the UCs, you know how it works. Schools like UCLA, Berkeley, and Santa Barbara are massive. Others, like mine, are smaller, quieter, easier to disappear into. The bigger campuses have their own traditions, especially when it comes to tour weekends. Officially, they're meant for incoming students to explore the school. Unofficially, they're excuses for absolute chaos. Berkeley has Cal Day. Santa Barbara has Deltopia. Deltopia isn't a party. It's a temporary collapse of order. Thousands of students flood Isla Vista. Streets close. Cops swarm. Balconies overflow with people. Alcohol becomes currency. Sleep becomes optional. I'd never gone before. I was never that guy. I didn't need to black out in a stranger's apartment to feel alive. But senior year messes with your head. You start thinking in last chances. So when my friends asked if I wanted to go, I said yes. That decision almost got me killed. There were 5 of us packed in a Hunter's car. Hunter driving, Damon riding shotgun, and me crammed in the back with Benjamin and Armin. We were all over 6 feet tall, knees pressed into seats, shoulders overlapping. The car smelled like stale energy drinks and cheap cologne. But spirits were high. Music was loud. Conversation bounced between nostalgia and drunken plans that hadn't even happened yet. It was about a 2.5-hour drive to Santa Barbara. Somehow it flew by. By the time we hit Isla Vista, the sun was dipping low, casting everything in gold. The streets were already packed. Groups of students spilled on the sidewalks. Music blasted from open windows. The air buzzed with anticipation. Parking, though, a nightmare. We circled for nearly an hour. Every spot was taken. Cars double parked. People guarded spaces like territory. Just when we were about to give up, Hunter did what Hunter always does, talked his way into something impossible. He spotted a sorority girl unloading groceries and somehow convinced her to let us park in her designated spot. We laughed the entire walk back. Everything felt perfect. Hunter's sister was a junior at UCSB. She and her roommates had agreed to let us crash on their apartment floor. During Deltopia, that's not just generous, it's priceless. The apartment wasn't big, but it was clean, lively, and welcoming. Her roommates were cool. No weird vibes. No awkward tension. We immediately felt at home. Deltopia technically didn't start until the next morning, but nobody follows technicalities during Deltopia. So after settling in, we decided to make a liquor run. That's when Amir showed up. Hunter is friendly, to a fault. Because of that, he knows everyone. And clinging to the edges of his social orbit was a guy named Amir. Calling him a friend would be generous. Amir was loud, insecure, desperate for validation. The kind of person who hijacks conversations, crosses boundaries, and never seems to realize when he's not wanted. Worse, he had a history, doing messed up things to people I cared about. So when Hunter mentioned, weeks earlier, that Amir might also be going to Deltopia, none of us thought much of it. There were no plans, no coordination, no invitation. He wasn't part of our trip, or so we thought. We were walking back from the liquor store, arms full of bottles, laughing and talking, when I noticed someone standing on the curb ahead of us. Hands in pockets. Still, watching. It was Amir. No greeting. No wave. No explanation. We walked past him without saying a word. And then he fell in a step beside us, like he'd been there the entire time. A few blocks later, he finally spoke. "Why are you guys so surprised to see me?" The question stunned me. Surprised? Of course we were surprised. There was never a plan to meet. As far as I knew, Hunter hadn't even told him where we were staying. No one answered. We just kept walking. Things escalated fast. When we reached the apartment building, Amir asked if he could use the bathroom. Hunter hesitated, but reluctantly agreed. The moment the door unlocked, Amir ran ahead of us. Hunter's sister opened the door. Before anyone could stop him, Amir stepped past her and said, "I'm staying here. No question, no permission, just a statement." Hunter's sister, confused, assumed Amir was part of our group. Hunter was furious. Inside the apartment, he confronted Amir directly, told him he had lied, crossed a line, and needed to leave immediately. Amir argued, raised his voice, tried to guilt his way back inside. Hunter didn't budge. For 20 minutes, Amir stood outside the door, pleading, bargaining, getting increasingly unhinged. Eventually, he left. We locked the door behind him, and that should have been the end of it. Later that night, drunk and laughing, we replayed everything. Amir's behavior, his entitlement, the way he'd just appeared. Then it hit us. Hunter had been sharing his iPhone location with Amir. That's how he found us. He hadn't run into us by coincidence. He had tracked us. A chill crept into my stomach, but we shrugged it off. Deltopia had begun. Nothing bad was going to happen, right? The next day was madness in the best way. Music everywhere. People everywhere. Cops watching, but not intervening unless they had to. It was exactly what everyone said it would be. By late afternoon, we regrouped at the apartment with 5 more friends, 10 of us total. We told them about Amir. That's when Ryland checked his phone. I think I still have his location. He turned the screen toward us. The blue dot was on top of us. As soon as we reacted, it started moving, fast, like someone had been sitting in a car nearby and had just driven away. We laughed it off. We shouldn't have. Sometime after midnight, I woke up suddenly. No dream. No noise at first. Then, glass shattering. It came from deeper in the apartment. Everyone else was out cold, completely wasted. I realized, with a sinking feeling, that no one else had heard it. If someone had broken in, it was on me. I grabbed an empty wine bottle, my only weapon, and crept toward the living room. The sliding glass door to the balcony was obliterated. A massive rock lay in the middle of the floor. I didn't need to guess who did it. I turned to wake my friends and saw the closet door handle jiggle. My blood ran cold. That's when I understood. Amir wasn't outside. He was inside. I almost opened the closet door. Almost. Something stopped me. I backed away, woke Hunter, and told him everything. We approached the living room together. The closet door was now wide open. Empty. Then Hunter reached inside and pulled something out. A massive kitchen knife. Amir had been standing behind that door, waiting. If I had opened it, I wouldn't be here. We woke everyone, swept the apartment, called the police. Nothing came of it. Property damage happens during Deltopia, they said. Amir had stopped sharing his location, blocked all of us, vanished. To this day, I don't know where he is, but he knows where we live. And sometimes late at night, I still think about that door.